Let's make cool neon text in Blender. Let's open up a new project and delete everything. Add in the text object from the add menu. Press tab to go into edit mode and then you can edit the text. Go to the text options in the side panel to import your custom font by clicking on the folder icon. Type in your text and go to the text options in the side panel and increase the extrusion. You'll also find the align options below to align your text left, right or center. Now add in the plane to act as your background and position it however you want. Now it's time for the fun part. Let's hop into shader view. Add in a new material and remove the principal BSDF. Add and connect an emission shader to the shader output. Connect a gradient texture to the color input of the emission shader. Enable the Node Wrangler add-on from Preferences, Get Extensions. Now you can select the gradient texture and Ctrl T to add in a mapping node. Plug in a color ramp after the gradient texture to control the strength of your gradient and also the colors. We can change the slider colors to add color to your gradient and adjust the slider to control the strength. There are a few different gradients available in the drop-down menu. You can choose the one you like. I went ahead with the linear one. Let's change the texture coordinate to object and add in a cube and select the cube in the texture coordinates. I use this cube to control the rotation and position of my gradient texture. You can tweak the positions of the sliders in the color ramp to control the spread of your gradient and how saturated each color is and so on. This is looking kinda bland right now. Let's spice it up. Let's add a mix shader and plug our original material into shader 1 input. Add in a Fresnel node and connect it to the factor and connect a glossy BSDF to the secondary shader. If you hop into rendered view and rotate around the text object, you can see some nice Freneling on the sides. The glossy BSDF also can be used to add a sheen of any color on the surface of the material. Now add in the color ramp between the Fresnel node and control the Fresnel effect. Before we move ahead, let's add in the camera and set the focal length, position and everything. I also set the aspect ratio to square because this render was mostly for logos and Instagram. Adding the Fresnel node gives us a nice glow effect on the edges of the text. You can tweak the materials a little bit to your liking and make it look however you want. I mainly played with the emission strength and the intensity of the Fresnel effect. This is your time to shine. Go crazy with the settings, find out how it works and make something that looks good to you. Select your camera and click on the camera icon in the side panel. Find composition guides below and enable any of the ones you like to help your camera and short framing. The surface still looks a little boring, so let's fix it. Add a Voronoi texture and a displacement node. Connect these two and plug it into the shader displacement. I converted my text into a mesh at this point and I started tweaking the Voronoi texture to get some interesting surface detail. You can adjust the noise type, scale, detail, roughness, randomization, etc. Let's also plug in our Voronoi texture into a bump node and connect it to the normal input of the glossy BSDF. Let's speed through the footage while I adjust the noise texture settings, bump settings and displacement settings. You can play around with these and choose the ones you like depending on your font and text. Quick tip: when you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you can Control-Shift-Click on any of the nodes and keep clicking to cycle through different node outputs to see only that specific node. And then Control-Shift-Click back on the main shader to hop back into the normal material view. In any of the Voronoi textures or the noise textures, you can change the noise type to 4D. That gives you a W slider. It's basically a seed. By changing the W value, you can get different noise patterns on your material. Now let's make a cool brushed metal texture for our background plane. Create a new material and plug in a noise texture to the base color. Select the noise texture and press Ctrl T to add in a mapping node. Now you can massively increase the scale on the X or Y axis depending on the direction of brushing you want on your metal. You can also adjust the scale, detail, roughness, distortion values of the noise texture, but I would suggest to keep it simple for a brushed metal look. Metallic slider all the way to the right because it's a metal, and then roughness depending on what you want. You can also check out my short which shows you how to create metal textures in even more detail. The link is above here. Now it's time to add some lights into our scene. I started with an area light, scaled it up and increased the brightness. We already start to get some nice highlights on the surface detail. Change the color of the area light according to the mood of your scene. I added more area lights and positioned them around the frame to get some nice colored highlights on the brush metal from the sides. You can light the scene however you want. Now I'll speed through some final lighting adjustments that I did here, scaling up the lights, changing the power, colors, etc. I set my color management to AGX and a high contrast. It's already looking good, but it's time for the final sauce. Compositing. Go into the compositing window, add in a viewer node and connect your render layer to it so that you can see the render output. I added a glare node and set it to bloom. Play with the settings to get the look you want. Then I added a hue saturation value and adjusted the settings. And finally, lens distortion to add a slight lens distortion and dispersion, which is chromatic aberration. Apply these techniques to your 3D texts and logos and show me the results. You can find me on Instagram or drop me a comment below. I'll see you in the new video next Saturday. Subscribe for more videos like